following thoughts, opinions, stories, and expressions are meant for those who will appreciate them. If you don't, we hope you keep an open soul to encounter another here on 34 Questions. Peace. In 3, 2, 1. What's going on, folks? Welcome to 34 Questions. I'm your host, 34, and tonight I have a very special guest in the house. Chuck is in the building. How you doing tonight, Chuck?
What's up, everybody? I'm doing pretty well, man. I got some things going on in my body because I've been doing a lot of different kind of yoga and a little bit of fasting lately. So there's a whole bunch of different things shaking right now.
Man, I think you are definitely one of the people I look up to when it comes to, like, handling your body, handling your health. Just trying to get to where you are, man. And you're way more educated than I am, so I know, you got that knowledge to back it up too. For me, I'm gonna try to focus on calories in, calories out, and that's like my main focus. But I'm sure it's more complicated than that.
Yeah, I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes when I was younger, and they follow you. Karma is a real thing, whether it's psychological, from a nutritional, physiological level, whatever. But yeah, man, it's real.
Nah, I got you, man. I mean, my focus is just keeping my body moving, because I know for my folks, they're slowing down a little bit. But I'm their age when I was a kid. So, I know they didn't really have the time to make for exercise and just to stay active. So I can see how it's kind of affecting them now. And for me, it's a daily reminder. I still live with them. So it really motivates me to just get out there and make sure that I can still move the way I want to move. And I don't know if it's like the fountain of youth I'm looking for, or, just trying to stay young as possible. But that's basically my goals as of now. I hope to one day, I don't know if I told you, is to do the Senior Olympics.
Okay.
Maybe I'll be at the tip top shape of that percentile at my age. We'll see.
Well, I came up with this little saying a couple weeks ago because a lot of time I used to be chasing my past, but I like to say, like, I'm not like really searching for the fountain of youth. I'm trying to climb the mountain of truth. So yeah, man, like basically, I think it's just a good quest to try to keep on getting better. A lot of time we don't necessarily age like wine. We might gain wisdom, but like the body doesn't work exactly the same. Even though the mind, we may have accumulated a lot of great things, we don't retain information the same way that the youth does. So yeah, man, I'm 42 years old. I'm getting gray hair, bro. Like, it's always a tricky thing to look in the mirror and not look the same way you did 10, 15 years ago.
No, I feel that, man. Anytime, like, I don't know if you can have those drastic changes for you at the moment, but for me, it's like whenever I shave my beard off or my mustache and I look in the mirror and I'm like, who the fuck are you, man?
Straight up, dude. Straight up, man.
I'm not that guy. But yeah, no, I hear you, Chuck. Well, real quick, I gotta let the folks out there know, if you are unfamiliar with the flow of the show, we do some intro questions, some warm-up questions just to set the tone. After that, we'll jump into a couple icebreakers. And after that, we'll turn to the Wheel of Fate, where we'll spin the wheel, and whichever number it lands on, that's how the conversation will flow. After all that, we'll finish out with some closeout questions. Sound good to you, Chuck?
Yeah, that works, man. I'm at your disposal for the next 55 minutes, my brother.
I appreciate it, Chuck. October. I know it's a big month for you, but overall, man, how have you been? You've been doing well. You've been doing great. How you been lately, man?
Yeah, man, I think things are going pretty well. I'm establishing my training business again. I was working in not-for-profit work from, let's say, more like it crescendoed up. So I had a not-for-profit organization established back in Chicago in 2010, but it didn't really, I think, have the spirit of a not-for-profit until 2014. So from 14 to up until last December, I was pretty much strictly, almost like 80% doing not-for-profit work. And now I'm transitioning into trying to run it in a hybrid kind of sense. So I'm getting my LLC back up, not making too much money right now. Still really working on my injuries, because a huge part of, I think, the integrity of the business is I need to be able to walk the walk. So I got to get back to playing hoop like I used to. I got to be able to run I'm not saying I got to be able to run a 5 minute, 30-second mile by next year, but I gotta be on that upward trajectory. So just reestablishing that business and also still making it service oriented That's kind of where my mind is at these days. And then from like a physical standpoint, things are getting a little bit better, slowly but surely. And then I'm getting married in a little bit more than a week. I may move back to Chicago. My girlfriend my future wife and I might need to be split up just for a little while next year because a lot of different things, but we'll probably get to that in a little bit. But overall, life is decent, man. I don't have many complaints at all.
I hear it, man. And congratulations, on the
Thank you.
The big day coming up.
Yeah.
I want to kind of ask you about, you said the non-for-profit spirit. What is that? Like, because for the folks out there who don't know, the NFL is a non-profit, but I don't think it really defines that spirit. So for you, what's that mean for you, the non-for-profit spirit?
I think that, well, first of all, I think that you need to take a lot of inventory of where you came from. I came from a background where my parents made decent money. I was brought up, I went through college, I didn't have debt. I'm one of the few people who didn't, and I worked and paid for a little bit of my college. So I started working at 14, and I was always somebody who helped. So even though I would say I was raised in both a blue collar and white collar kind of family, but I didn't go for want. There were a lot of things that, I was very, very privileged with. So I came from a background where my father definitely was in the capitalistic industry, and I understand how money works. I understand how to be frugal. I understand how to sell, move and shake, what to tell people if I want to make a buck. I'm familiar with how taxes work, so I can get around. I used to be able to get around the edges around that in Chicago when I used to run my own like LLC training business. But when I had this basketball AAU team from 2000, started in 2008, and then we finished up in 2012. Like halfway through, it became not-for-profit, mostly because it was going to help me raise money, and we could recruit better players who didn't necessarily have the means to afford that, or better players who were being recruited by other teams that were going to take them on for free. So there are a lot of ways to mask, I can write a real nice sonnet for you, man, but there's just a whole lot of cognitive dissonance involved with a lot of the way certain corporations work, whether they're, for-profit, not-for-profit. So whether you want to draw a demarcation line and make a separation, I really think it's not just about your motivations, it's about being intentional. And when our not-for-profit took it to a next level, like in 2016 and 17, it really was socialistic. It was really a socialist not-for-profit. And I lost a shitload of money in about 5 years. And I did a lot of great things. Well, maybe I shouldn't say great things, but I think I did a lot of pretty interesting and definitely cutting edge things. With that being said, one of the major issues with socialism is if you're not 100% honest with the way you look in the mirror, you may not put the right kind of value estimation on the way you move. You need to have extreme emotional intelligence. You need to be able to work in different kind of crowds and be able to tell the truth and come through. So I was basically the person who presided over the not-for-profit. In my opinion, it failed in a lot of respects because in one respect, I was a good leader. In a few other respects, I was not a good leader. And a lot of the time with stuff like socialism, if a leader can have a false sense of ego, it doesn't necessarily mean they need to be a megalomaniac or an egomaniac, but if they have a false sense of exactly what they're doing or a false sense of history, which in certain ways I think I had, things can go south. So lots of great experiences with that. Awesome experiment. Taught me a lot, humbled me a lot, and it was a cool way to transition moving out to California too, because I had a lot of different experience under my belt to learn from.
For sure. I do want to ask you about how you got to the Y and in San Francisco. I don't think that was the first thing you were doing when you moved out to Cali, but you mentioned about being a good leader, and maybe being able to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, there's things that I'm lacking as well. Dog, I am definitely feeling that right now, just because, I was put into a leadership position. And I keep thinking in my head, man, my style, I always told myself, I'm not the person to tell people what to do. It's like, let me lead by example. Hopefully people will catch on and, bring that same kind of energy. That doesn't work for everybody. And, it's like, okay, now I'm coming to a spot where how do I, like, in my mind, it's more about motivation and inspiration and trying to get people to realize, like, okay, I hope you're here because you're passionate about the work. And if you're not, then let me try to get you to a place where you can feel passionate and be driven as much as I feel like I am. But I think there's certain struggles with that. And right now, what's been great is that I think the people that I am leading kind of understand where I'm coming from. And, I've been open with them and tell them I see myself more as a soldier than a general. But now I'm at this point in my life, I am in a position of where I got to lead, and it's new to me. And I just hope that, like, the thing that I think I'm scared of or afraid of is when, I've always been on the bottom totem pole. So everyone down there kind of like talks shit about everyone that's above them. And I'm a people pleaser. I don't want people to talk about me in that way. And I just hope they understand. And I think for me that causes a little bit of anxiousness and anxiety. And I think I'm just working through it. Like, in my mind, I have to tell myself it doesn't matter. I don't know. How do you feel about that as far as like that struggle of, trying to be a good leader, but, feeling like my values aren't aligning with everyone else's. So it's kind of hard to bring them up to that level of inspiration. What was your experiences with that?
Well, I mean, if you also broaden that in a not-for-profit context, it's tricky, man, because the funding can be a big battle. Values of different people within the organization can be varied. It's real tricky. That's where I really resolved, especially the last 2 years working at the YMCA, to really focus on the micro, not the macro. It's great to paint big dreams on paper, but like the short-term goals is short-term. Like, I really do believe in each one, teach one. I mean, I have a tough enough time trying to take care of myself, like for real, on a daily basis, So when we get these grandiose visions that we start saying like, oh, okay, hey, I can affect these dozen, these 50, these 200 people, like through my program, through my wisdom, through my experience. Like if you haven't done that before, if you haven't done that on a 1-to-1 ratio basis, I don't know. I think the proof is in the pudding. Like, one thing I like about you, at least from the context that I knew working with you, is you're a good relationship builder. And I think it really, really begins and continues on and ends with those kind of relationships. So if you're unwilling to give each individual your time, then in my opinion, you can't really lead that person. And at the same time, I have the humility to understand that person's also going to lead you. I learned kids are so much more intuitive than adults. They're not as corrupted, even if they don't have the right lexicon or like a certain kind of communicative like cognition to be able to explain exactly what it is that's going on subconsciously, like at an intuitive level. Like, they're gonna hit you in the balls with that shit. Like, my entire life as a coach, like, I feel like I look young. I feel like in a lot of ways I have a lot of energy and I have a lot of spirit because I've been hanging around kids for my entire professional life. That's what I did. I trained kids. And a lot of time I would just like learn how to observe parents, and not like I'm just trying to call them on a bunch of bullshit, but I just trust kids more, even if they're lying. Like, and it's kind of easy a lot of time to see certain kids lie or like see that little path, that pathology of the way, but like they're still giving you great feedback. Whether they're telling you the truth or not, it's like you can see so much in kids. So back to the question, what you were saying is, like, when it comes to leadership, I feel like that 1-to-1 ratio is golden, like, and that you want to keep establishing that within a program or within a movement is helping. Like, let's say you got a program of 20 kids and they all learn how to lead each other. Student-led stuff is beautiful, but it takes time to grow there. And the other thing too is you just got to embody it, and you need to have the humility to be like, hey, like, this is what I believe in. There may be a little bit of disconnect, like when it comes to food. We could talk about that all day long, like you used to on the job. At least if you're telling them face value, like, this is what I believe in, this is what I'm trying out with myself, this is what I'd like you to possibly grow into. You're giving them the framework of what your values are, and you're also meeting them where they're at. They're not going to give up eating a bunch of flaming hot Cheetos and processed hot dogs overnight. Like, you can join them where they're at and keep on sliding them over onto the continuum. So I just think it's a growth process. And we like to sell big dreams in America, man. But in my opinion, a lot of times that's a fugazi, you know what I mean? Like, America's a great country in a lot of respects, but like the way we came into existence is through a lot of lies too. So like, it's a winding road, man. You know, you got to try to keep it as real as you can, but then you got the subconscious mind there too, and you gotta get in there, and then it gets real tricky, right?
You gotta do those mental gymnastics.
Yeah.
No.
Was that what you were looking for a little bit?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Give you some insight into that kind of question.
No, for sure, man. I think the one-on-one thing is something that I will carry with myself, because I do find a lot of value in that, and I appreciate it a lot in the leaders that I've had in the past, where they take the time to get to know who you are, get to know, you know, what's driving you, and like kind of help you get to a place at work that you know, fulfills you, that makes you feel like, you know, you're there for a purpose. I mean, I just feel like I've encountered a lot of people, not just at the work where we were at previously, but even in my previous jobs, everybody didn't, like, it felt like 80% of people didn't want to be there, you know, and the 20% of people who did, after like 6 months to a year, they didn't want to be there anymore. You know, it's very interesting that like a lot of folks, if they know what their passion is, they aren't like pursuing it or aren't in it. And the ones that are, I mean, there's a huge struggle in it. And so I can see why a lot of folks would rather just, you know, turn off that side of their mind and just be like, let me just stay at a job that can pay me well, versus let me follow my passion and, you know, struggle for who knows how long. But if it's what you love to do, and, you know, you're able to basically live every day and feel like, you know, I've done something that's worth it, then that, I think, for me, that overpowers that priority of making money, which, good or bad, you know, depending on who you ask. You know, I think I have a lot, I don't know for you, but I definitely have a lot of friends telling me like, oh, you should apply for this job, or you should come work at my company. And I'm like, well, honestly, I really like where I'm at. And then they're like, but then you could afford this and that. And that value isn't there for me as much, you know. And I think that's probably coming from how I was raised, like you said, kind of knowing who you are as a person, where you've come from. There's a lot of things in that as well. But let me move on to the second question in the warm-up, which is number 2. What would you like the audience to know about you?
No, man. What would the audience like to know about me? Maybe is a better question. I change often. I feel like human beings, I'm a very different person than I was 5 years ago, than I was 10 years ago. I think that we evolve as human beings. Sometimes we devolve, sometimes we regress. So I truly believe that we are capable of good change as human beings. With that being said, I think that there's an incredible amount of self-deception. So yeah, I mean, like, I'm passionate. I like to learn. I'm not as good of a learner as I would like to be, but I like to experience things. I like to meet new people. And I'm excited for the future. You know, I don't know how old I'm going to be, but I've lived pretty hard, especially the last 20 years. And I think I'm going to continue to do so for the remainder. Yeah, man.
I got you. The one word you chose to describe yourself in the little questionnaire signing up was destitute. I looked it up, and let me do it one more time.
I was just fucking with you, man.
So I was gonna say, well, in your own words, what does that mean? But if you were just fucking with me, then you were just fucking with me.
Yeah, I was just playing around, man. I was trying to get you a little chuckle.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely had to look it up, man, because I didn't want to, like, you know, not understand the meaning of it. But yeah, I was. All right. Well, on the flip side of that, if you have one word to describe yourself, what would it be? Not fucking with me, but, you know, honest answer.
It could be capricious. Like I say, I change a lot, and
yeah.
And that's where I wouldn't say I'm like bipolar, even though we could talk about psychology and we could talk about that too, because I do think sometimes I fringe on that, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, especially if you're self-aware too. I think in a lot of ways, like, an amalgamated personality lends itself to being able to vibe with a lot of different kind of people. So as long as you're kind of checking yourself and you're not feeling too bad, because I've had those moments, man. I've had those really great moments. I've been way down there too. So yeah, man. Just keep on mixing the pot, bro.
I feel you. How do you feel about balance? I forgot whether or not you were telling me what your thoughts were on it before, but I'm a big believer in balance. Like, I think things will always kind of even out. Yeah, do you think that's a key to life, or that's something? I know some folks that just they're not about balance. You got to like pick a lane or choose a side and go for it straight.
I think balance is elusive for sure, man. So, my girlfriend, my fiance, she's pretty type A, and she's a wonderful human being. I'm definitely a little bit closer to type B. So, she's taught me so much. I had an interesting childhood, and I think my executive functioning skills got really like taken out. So like, I'm a huge scatterbrain, and a lot of people think I'm pretty creative. My writing is definitely esoteric, and I'm very improvisational, but when it comes to like organizing in a specific kind of way, sometimes that puts me in the mix, and I struggle. So I think seeking balance is a good thing in certain respects, for sure. At the same time too, I think that going to certain extremes can teach you so much about yourself too, and that threatens balance. So like, I don't really get hung up on that word as much as a lot of other people, but I do think that finding some semblance of balance, or whatever you want to say, like equanimity and equipoise and all that shit, like, I think it's a good thing, but only that too. So like, if you're hanging out in certain zones and you're feeling certain kind of ways, like I've got when I like smoke too much weed, it's a crutch for subconscious depression, man. And when I'm like, my joints aren't hurting, and I'm, man, I can go hike 15, 20 miles in the backcountry, man. I'm on 10 in a different zone. So like, we have our subconscious tendencies to go to, you know what I mean? And like, that's where the real work is for me. I know how I present myself. I've learned a lot about that in the last several years. I think I understand how to listen better, and how to make myself land on other people in a much more benevolent, easygoing type of way. But when I go to those deep places, I mean, you and I talk, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I was gonna say, were you able to get that, like being aware of how you come, like the impression you make on people? Was that just through like reflection, or did you have people tell you? Because in my mind, I'd be thinking about that too. Like, I wonder how I come off sometimes. And I guess I'm always afraid to ask that question to the people around me, but when people do impersonations and stuff, I always get a chuckle, because like, oh shit, that's how I come off, like as someone who just chuckles all the time or whatnot. But yeah, so for you, was that more internal reflection that got you to that point of like realization, or did you have to talk to other people and had to get that feedback?
I think both, man. My fiance helped me out a ton with emotional intelligence when I moved to California, and it was the first time in almost 20 years I'd worked for somebody else. I'd run my own show. Well, I shouldn't say 20 years. It was the first time in like 10 years that I'd worked for somebody else. I was running my own show for 10, 11 years in Chicago. And it was also the first time I had a female boss. And I consider myself to be a feminist, but at the same time too, like when you're spending, I definitely don't think I was a feminist in a lot of respects when I moved out to California. Despite believing in women's rights. I think there's a difference between being a feminist and believing in women to have equality. It's actions speak louder than words. But I think a lot of the time, I thought because I didn't understand what emotional intelligence was. I really learned I needed to be humbled, and I needed to learn how to listen. I needed to understand. It's really hard to lose when you listen first. If you give people the floor. I think a lot of time when people get warmed up, they like to talk. I like to talk a lot. I talk a lot. I talk too much. So my fiance really helped me out with a lot of that. And also the YMCA working there helped me out a lot, because I didn't understand culturally in certain ways about certain aspects of San Francisco, certain aspects about Bayview and Portola and Viz Valley and things like that. And, you got to get in where you fit in. And I came in there cocksure and like, I can lead. I can do these things. I have more experience than these people in these kind of ways. And whether or not that was true or not, you need to take your time, and you need to study other people and like be benevolent in that kind of process, because when people are at a job for a long period of time, or people have a certain sense of power or whatever it is, you gotta be able to flow with that. And that was an iterative process for me. So it took me a long time, man. It definitely took me a long time. And I'm not saying I'm there. I still fuck up for sure. But yeah, I definitely think I've made a couple strides in that respect. And I did a lot of hiking by myself, man. Like in my life, I'm not lying when I tell you I've probably been on trails by myself over 1,000, maybe 1,500 miles. And a lot of time when you have that much time to think and reflect, you can get some good work done. You can affect some change, because I mean, you're thinking, dude. You're in there.
Yeah, no, I think there is a certain power to having that time, that solitude, and like just reflecting. I don't know for you, but I grew up as an only child. I don't know if I told you that, but I had a whole lot of time by myself and a whole lot of time just running through my head. So now for me, it feels normal. I'm not the type of person, or I haven't been yet, but to just go hiking and like be out there all the time. But I do look forward to those moments anytime I'm out there, like the outdoors, the feeling of like things are a lot bigger than, what's happening in my head or what's happening in front of me. It's refreshing. So I don't know, for folks out there who feel that way, definitely get outdoors. You ever done the Pacific Coast Trail? Like that huge one?
Pacific Crest? I've done, yeah. I probably hiked a couple 100 miles on it, but not like straight. I've been on it for like 2-3 nights in a row backpacking. But yeah, man, I've done a section in Washington. I've been on it there. I've been in Oregon. I've been on it in Cali. So I've hiked a lot of Yosemite. I've hiked a lot of the Sierras and Kings Canyon. It's gorgeous country. Anybody who has the time and the desire, it's God's country out there for sure. So yeah, man, I would highly recommend it. You and I need to get on trail for real.
At some point, man, we should. I think it'd be a great fun time with you, man.
Yeah.
Let me get to the third question of the warm-up, which is, if I were to do something in your honor, a way to express the energy you possess, what could I do, man?
Shoot, man. Honestly, that's a question I feel is much better suited for you. With that being said, doing something in my honor, man, hey, just keep being great to the kids and the staff where you work at, and that's going to edify both you and that community. And I just want to say I appreciate the work and the vibe that you bring. So I think keep on keeping on. And maybe the only little asterisk I put on with that is, man, maybe not saying you got to pat yourself on the back, but maybe pump the confidence level up a notch or two, because I think you got a lot, man. I think you got a lot to offer kids, and in a very, very sincere way. And confidence, when you put confidence behind that, I think it takes leadership to a different level too. That would probably be what I would say, man.
I got you.
And I'm going to say something too, though, man. Like, I have a lot of confidence in certain way, but I'm also a fake motherfucker in certain ways too. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not saying that you showing up with that kind of like confidence is doing it in my honor. You know what I'm saying? So,
no.
Yeah.
No worries. I mean, honestly, you touched a big point. The confidence is and has been, an issue for me for a long time in my life. And, I feel like, I don't know if the kids can tell or not, because I feel like naturally they just look up to you. And what's crazy.
Oh, they can though. They can though. You know what I mean? Like, they can, man. It's like, whether they have it on the surface and they can communicate it, or like, but they know it, they can feel. It's just like, if you're playing Michael Jordan out there and it's 1990 and you look at him in the eye and he looks back at you, you're like, oh, I guess it's like, you know exactly what I'm saying. It's like, you look at me like I've prepped my whole entire life for this, but I'm still not ready. You know what I mean? It's just like this.
No.
You know what I mean? It's just like an eye to eye thing.
For sure. One of the clubs we started this semester was like a film club. Like, I wanted to shoot short movies, short skits or whatever with kids. And, like the first meeting had him in there, told him, this is the plan, this is what we're going to be doing. But then in the end, like, for me to feel good about it, I just had to tell them, like, look, I want to emphasize the fact that I'm nobody at this. Like, I'm learning with you. We're doing this together, kind of thing. Don't look at me as somebody that knows more than you at this point. Like, this is a process that we're all going to be going through. And I think they responded to that because kids are showing up every week, and I think that helped them kind of relate more. And I think that's a big difference between even like coaching versus teaching sometimes. In the position that I'm at right now, it's more so kids can respond well because I'm doing the stuff with them, versus if I was a teacher, I would just have to be telling them what to do. So I think that really changes the dynamics, or at least the energy that they present. But I got you, Chuck. I'll do my best to gain that. Gain, at least fake it till I make it type thing, because at a certain degree I feel like everyone does that, right?
I think you're taking a step though, because integration is a great way to like literally integrate that experience. Like, hey, I might not be a complete expert with this, but I'm going to go through it with you. And that's big, man. If you're a coach, you can't run the same sprint as somebody else, but they see you still running on the same track. It's eye to eye thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure as a player, and when I was a kid playing ball too, it was always great when the coaches would play with us, because you have that extra like, oh, I'm gonna show them some kind of thing, and then coach would either like teach you, or they end up getting school, but it's always like a good kind of relationship after that, because it I'm not gonna say it evens the playing field for everyone, but it kind of just shows the kid that you have that humility. You're not trying to be someone that just says everything and not do it as well. Like, running sprints at the end of a practice or whatever. And it's always great for the coach to jump in. You remember who was that coach in college basketball? I feel like his name was Shaka. Was it?
Oh yeah, Shaka Smart. Sure.
Yeah, I remember when he had that Cinderella run, I want to say with George Mason. I might be wrong, but
Virginia, was it military, VMU? Or it wasn't VCU. I think it was Virginia military, VMU. I think so. I may be wrong.
I just remember those clips of him, like, doing the drills with the players and everything. And I think that was a big part of, like, getting to motivating those kids to, make the tournament, go as far as they did, is because he was willing to do the work with them at some points. But yeah, no, I got you. All right, this one I've been waiting to ask this question for you, because kind of curious what you're gonna answer. But on a scale from 1 to 10, how well do you know yourself?
Oh man, that's like, there's so much nuance to that question. I look at it as just continuing to get to know myself better. I'm a big student of my subconscious. We spend more than a lot of psychologists argue more than 95% of our time in our subconscious mind. So trying to continue to familiarize yourself with what's beneath the surface. We're only communicating 2-3% of our thoughts at most. Interpreting dreams is a crazy thing. So the way I'd answer that question is, compared to many people, I think I'm more of a seeker. So if you want to put that on some kind of number value, great. I don't necessarily like to make things comparative, because I'm in this mind, I'm in this body. This is what I know is what I know right now. So I would definitely say the best way to look at that for me is I'm a seeker. I'm trying to figure out what's making me tick, to inform better quality of life, if I bring kids into the world, to help them, be able to feel liberated. So yeah, man, that's kind of the quest I'm on.
I got you. And honestly, that was definitely, I think, the reason why I was so excited to ask you, because I knew you weren't going to give me like, a regular answer to that. That was way more personal, more, introspective than I think a lot of folks have. But I got you, man. And well, let me ask you this: when's the last time you surprised yourself, like, and you were like, "Oh, that's me," or "I could do that," or
Shoot, man.
Been a minute.
I don't know about that. It's been a minute, man. I feel like I got a pretty good gauge. I do think I need to be able to take a few more risks. I have a real bad, and this is interesting too, because I love being in a backcountry. I love being in the mountains, but I have a bad fear of heights, man. I suffer from I suffer from hyperhidrosis, which is an anxiety disorder, like where my hands and feet will get really sweaty in certain kind of situations, especially if I'm like at some vertiginous like peak or something like that. I could go climb a class 2 mountain or something like that, but you put me on a class 4 and like I need to get on some edges. So like I really am interested in breaking down fear. I think that especially when fear and phobia develops at very early ages, it's a tricky thing. So I'm consistently trying to root out, like extirpate, poor qualities and things associated with fear. And I think, over the next 5-10 years, I'm going to continue to try to dig, because I think a small amount of it is physical, because I've had so many terrible injuries. But I think that it's predominantly a psychological condition.
I got you. Were you always kind of like scared of heights since as a youngin to where you are now, or did that
it gets deep, man? It gets deep. I came from some ugly trauma as a kid. I've had this recurring dream where my godfather is like, he was pretty drunk, Irish Catholic guy. Like, we were on the second floor of a mall, and it's like one of my earliest memories. And it's real foggy, but like, he picked me up and just like put me over the edge and just kept on doing this. And he was like, and like over and over and over. And it's been this recurring dream in 2022. And I probably had that dream, and I don't remember all my dreams. So I can remember having that dream like 3, 4, 5 times. So my instinct thinks that is close to the root of that fear. So I'm just going to keep digging, man. I'll report back as I make strides, or if I go backwards. So
I feel that. I've
done some risky stuff in the last several years when it comes to heights. But I'm telling you, man, I feel scared as fuck, dude. I ain't gonna lie.
So you never really like jumped off the cliff into the ocean kind of thing, or have you done?
Yeah, see, there's something about, like, if I know the water is safe, I'm cool. I'll jump off a 30 foot cliff. I've jumped off some waterfalls before, but like, if you put me in exposure where I could fall and hit rock or something like that, I'm not saying I'm gonna go climb up some steep, real terrible cliff and go jump off it. But if it's a pretty safe jumping point, I don't mind jumping off a 30-foot cliff. That stuff's fun. I love the ocean. I love cold water. I'm not really afraid of sharks and things like that. But you put me on a class 5 or class 4 mountain hike, and you're gonna see some problems. You're gonna see me shut down.
I got you. I feel like that's how I am with swimming. And I don't have a recurring dream about it, but now that you talk about like something that happened young kind of sticking with you, I think I hated it when people would just push me in the pool as a kid, kind of like, get me to swim, or like, oh, this is how you gonna learn, just push me at random moments. And I did drown like a couple times as a child. So like, now trying to get over that, I took swimming classes in college where I learned how to float on my back and everything. But aside from that, man, I know when I'm at the beach and I feel like I'm getting too far from the thing, that panic button, like that danger, the red alert thing starts happening to me. And maybe it's because I'm using more different muscles in the water too. You probably know more about that, but my legs just start cramping like crazy. Maybe it's the panic with the movement and not really moving my body the best way in water. That all just adds up. And I just like, let me just get out of here. And, so at the pools, same thing. I would just stick, 5 feet wherever I could keep my toes on the ground. But yeah, I think similarly, like with the height thing, something in my childhood, man, just kind of turned me off to it. And as far as deconstructing fear and like facing them, I think that's one of those that I want to, because I really want to jump off a cliff into the ocean. Like I see people do it all the time. Like that looks hella fun. When I get up there, I'm gonna be like, oh no, maybe another time. But
I feel you, dude. Well, I mean, the ocean's undefeated, man. I almost drowned out in Hawaii back in 2013 with my ex-girlfriend, and she got the worst of it. So I know what that feeling of what they call like amygdala hijack in the brain when you're in fight or flight. Ooh, the ocean is definitely a place to be respected and revered. No doubt about that.
I will keep that in mind as I continue to live on. All right, man, I'm going to bring you over to the icebreakers real quick. We'll keep this one short and simple. I just want to give you a statement and you let me know what your thoughts are on it. The first statement is going to be, overthinking is a bad thing. How do you feel about that statement?
It depends. Overall, though, I think being able to trust your intuition is the golden ticket.
I got you. And this other statement is, time is money.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That sounds cliche as fuck. It's real, though. Like, you do want to be efficient with your time. And I think, like where efficiency meets efficacy, that's that, then you're really streamlining. But I think that time is valuable, no doubt, because it doesn't necessarily need to be currency, right?
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, I think that's a better way of looking at that statement, is that just time is valuable. You don't have to necessarily say it's money, but I got you. All right. And then this next one is going to be a word association. I'm just going to rapid fire some words at you. You give me the first thought, first phrase, whatever comes to mind first. Just let you know the record is 12. Maybe you are a little competitive, but let's see how you do. Here we go, man. The timer will start when I say the first word in 3, 2, 1. Failure.
Good.
Life.
Endless.
Future.
Not told.
Dance.
Always.
People.
Pleaser.
Crazy.
Me.
Imagine.
Everything.
Conflict.
Let's do it.
Success.
Measured in any way you see fit.
Knowledge.
Is power, but the right.
Ooh, the gong hit. So say that one more time for knowledge.
I said knowledge is power, but the right kind of power.
Got you, man. One thing I do want to bring up, I believe for failure, you said good. What did you mean by that?
I mean, man, you gotta fail, dude. I fail. Dude, go ask my fiance over there, dude. I fall flat on my fucking face every day, bro. Let's do it, man. You can do it again.
I hear you.
You gotta hopefully becoming more and more benevolent. But like, man, I screw up by the minute. Maybe not always by the minute, but definitely by the half hour. You're definitely gonna check a couple boxes right there.
I got you. Like for you, I'm pretty sure you have felt the feeling of defeat before. But how long? Is there a right amount of time to hold on to those feelings? Like, you gotta.
Yeah. You know what? I think again too. It's really a lot about self-actualization. That's what I feel, because like, if you know who you are, you can accept that failure. You can generate positivity. You can generate growth. If you don't know who you are, if you're trying to cling on to some kind of idea somebody else gave you, or something imposed by family trauma that they didn't deal with, and things like that, then you can be tripping up on those toes and stubbing them all the time. I used to live in the past. That was my job, man. That was what I did, dude. I was trying to make amends for, the athlete that I wasn't, that I was supposed to be, the injuries I wasn't supposed to have, pleasing my dad in a way that he couldn't please himself, that kind of thing. So, shoot, man, like, whether you like it or not, you're going to fail. But I think that having a different definition than what the status quo's definition of failure is, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't get to every single task at your job every single day, it doesn't necessarily mean you failed, right? So take that shit with a grain of salt. And, the people who are resilient, I think are the people who really have the peace. You know what I mean? Like, the truth is, at our job at the YMCA, they used to talk about restorative justice all the time. But the truth of the matter was, people just wanted to bitch and moan and be the victim. I'm going to call it the way it is, bro. Like, the bottom line, the best way to restore justice is to have resilience. You got to be about it. And if you're going to help restore somebody back to the community, whether, they committed a crime or treated somebody poorly, like, you got to talk about that 1-to-1 ratio. You got to, maybe a 1-to-3 ratio, and you got to really, really spend the time to restore that justice. But if that person, and I'm not even talking about just that person that you're trying to help, quote unquote, restore, but the leader or that institution or that school is like, those people need to be resilient too, because what do you expect? You expect a change to happen overnight? It doesn't happen overnight. You know what I mean? Like, justice is hard. It's really, really hard. So that's how I try to think about resilience when it comes to failure, because like, you can learn a lot from that if you try to humble yourself. And it's not like I got that pattern down, but that's definitely what I believe. I believe that sincerely, and I can give you, a monstrous amount of examples from my past where I could patch those sores up a lot quicker if I had resilience.
I got you. Yeah. it just made me think, the time that you're talking about is, I think, what lacks it sometimes with the work we do, is because I think everyone has good ideas. No, I want to say every idea is good, but people bring stuff to the table. Like, I think one of my pet peeves is when like someone says, "Oh, we should do this," and then I'm like, "Great," but then there's nothing after that. It's just like the idea is shared, but like, okay, where does the work come from at that point? That kind of frustrates me at times, because it's like, and then afterwards the reflection's like, well, why didn't anyone do anything? And I'm like, well, I can only do so much, and in my mind this is what I was prioritizing, versus if you felt so passionately about it, like you should do it, but it doesn't happen all the time like that. And I'm not saying it's just in this workplace, it happens in every workplace. Like everyone,
yeah, no doubt,
everyone wants to be the idea person and have everybody else do the work. And I've even said it myself. It's like, man, I wish I could get hired to just say different creative ideas and, let everybody do the work. So I think that's a trap. I've heard kids say that too. It's like, oh yeah, I have so many great ideas. That's great. What are you going to do with them? Like, you're going to wait for someone to work for you for free? Like, that's not going to happen, all these things. So I feel you on the resiliency for sure. All right, man. I do want to just jump into the wheel right now before we run out of time. I want to thank you again, Chuck, for stopping by. I hope you're having fun, man.
Yeah, man. It's good to spend some time talking to you, man. It's long overdue.
We never got to do this, man, and I've said it to you a million times. I wish we had more time, because just getting to know you more, I feel like, and knowing myself, we could have filled holes in each other's, like, whatever we're lacking, we could have, and even strengthened the strengths that we had, just that chemistry. We've been both on basketball teams before. I'm sure for you much higher level, but we all play a role. we all have our spots in the play for sure. All right, dog.
Nothing's stopping us now, man. But go ahead.
I got you. Give it a spin, and remember, if there's any question that's too deep, too personal, something you don't want to talk about, feel free to pass. But this first question for you is, what are your distractions?
Ooh, distractions. I am one of those people who, this could be a long rant. All right. Yeah, I'm not going to go into like a bunch of chakric energy, because I've been studying yoga a lot for the last couple of years, and I believe it in a very spiritual way in a lot of ways, not necessarily in certain practical ways. But when it comes to like people's strengths, I feel like a lot of the time we understand what we're gifted with, but to actualize those strengths, that's a different story, man. And a lot of the time, like you're just talking about ideas, I have the ability to create quite creatively and improvisationally. Yet when it comes to an organizational, I think I emanate a lot of confidence, but sometimes it's fake confidence. Sometimes it's very, very real. And like I said, that word you were looking to describe me is probably capricious. So like, I could go and just sit down right now and write you a 5-10 page short story. It could be decent, and I can get it to you in 30-45 minutes. But a lot of the time, man, like depression gets in the way. Psychological addiction to marijuana gets in the way. Just like process addiction, like going on Instagram or text messaging or something, like some kind of show, and getting distracted. So like, one thing that I think that I could relate, some people are familiar with chakric energy. So like one of my gifts would be like throat chakra, which is like the communication chakra. Like it's the lowest level of like metaphysical chakras. So it's not necessarily about the reptilian brain or the mammalian brain. It's the human brain. So with like, I have great abilities to take it in this way, but then there's a great chance for either backfire or like depression in this kind of way too. So it's like, that's where the subconscious really comes into it, where you got to see things at face value. Like you were talking about people generating ideas. I think it's okay if you don't actualize all your dreams or you don't finish all the projects. But just as long as you continue to make a good effort and you did so with the right kind of spirit and the right kind of honesty with yourself and the parties involved. So that's something that I'm not sure if I'm giving, I might be giving a pretty esoteric, like vague answer to that. But yeah, that's something that I really, really struggle with. I have some very, very good abilities from a communication like standpoint, but then, you know, it really vacillates, man. I'm up and down with that stuff, dude. I mean, I've written a bunch of books, but I don't know what to do with them, you know, and I need to keep editing them. And I keep writing, you know, so we'll see what I do with them. I think it's great, the creation's there, but there's definitely something in the conscience telling me, like, I don't know if those are quite ready for other people's eyes yet.
You don't ever feel like just sending them to a publisher and being like, oh, what's your feedback? Pick up some?
Nah, I ain't going on that shit. If I'm gonna publish them, I want it to be I want it to be, this is very personal stuff.
I got
you. Know
you.
what I mean? We'll see, you know, like if I need to make some money on that stuff in the future and I think I could do it, I'll talk about it, but I didn't write them to make money, you know, so.
I hear that, man.
I'm not really sure. I like to keep things in-house when I can.
Hey, I'm with you there, and you know, I smile because you know that tells me you're an independent, you know, artist in a way, especially if it's going to be coming from your books. For me, in the same vein, I have a lot of lyrics that I've never recorded, I never like put out there, and I wish I still had access to all the old stuff. I don't know if you lost any of your writings, but that's super frustrating sometimes because they end up being more like, I don't know what you've written before, but for me, my music, they end up being like a journal. You know, I read that shit and it's just like, okay, that's where I was at, that's where my mindset was at, and a big reason why I stopped with music or stopped writing music was that I felt like the story was always the same, and I felt like I was writing about the same things all the time, which is basically chilling, you know, probably getting high kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I needed to change my life because this is all I was writing about, that's all I knew. But yeah, that's just my experience with it as well. Let me give this wheel one more spin before we move on. Do you have a hard stop at 8? Just let me know, so I don't know.
No, if you want to go a couple extra minutes, I'm down, bro.
For sure, man. Ooh, nice. You landed on number 34. I haven't figured out a prize for that yet, but number 34 is, where do you feel like you belong?
I feel like I belong in many, many places, man. And I don't want to be too discriminatory when it comes to that. So I definitely want to be continuous. You know, one thing I haven't done is spent that much time with the elderly. That kind of trips me out. That doesn't interest me as much. I mean, what interests me, I like being with young people. I like spending time with the youth. Whether, you know, people are 5 years old or 25 or 30, I like to. So where do I belong? I think that question could go in any direction, whether it's geographical, spiritual. But yeah, man, I want to put myself in as many places to learn well, you know, from that, like, you know, geographical, historical, spiritual standpoint. So I'm going to continue to try to become more adaptable so I can weave in and out of as many different kind of situations. I want to experience a lot of different things. I've been very blessed. I've experienced a lot already. So keep tracking that kind of direction.
I got you, Chuck. All right, man. Well, we made it to the closeout portion of the interview. But before we do that, I have this quick exercise for you. It's called the 34th mantra. So basically, I want you to fill in the phrase, I am, I can, I will. I am blank, I can blank, I will blank. Let me know when you're ready, because I'm going to switch you over to the screen where you basically just talking to yourself. It's like a mirror. So let me know when you're ready for that.
All right. I'm ready, man.
All right, here we go.
I am Charles William D. Metropolis. I can do a lot, man, and I will dunk with 2 hands off my left leg by next summer. It's been too long, man. That's what's gonna happen. But I can't pop too much shit because I haven't done it yet. So yeah, the tape won't lie, right?
Tape won't lie, man. And if you ever need a reminder for yourself, any like extra motivation, inspiration, feel free. You got this sound clip now. You telling you what you can do you will do and who you are. Thank you for participating in that, Chuck. All right, we made it to the closeout portion. This next question is actually going to be from my previous guest. Let me pull that up real quick. Oh yeah, shout out to Miss Carrie. Miss Carrie's question for you, Chuck, is what did you need from adults as a child, and how would you offer that to the kids that you work with? She's also a teacher, so this is interesting. But what did you need from adults as a child, and how would you be able to offer that now?
I needed great examples. People that were going to walk the walk. I needed those. I think that we grow up in institutions where, you're being taught inside, man. The world is outside. If you want to learn about ecology, go into nature, man. If you want to learn about chemistry, man, go into a lab for real, So a lot of the time I think that we're taught by words. I'm a much bigger believer in experience. So I'll take experience over theory any day of the week, man. So that's what I needed more of as a kid. And I think I'm not going to say everybody is going to answer something like that, but I think that holds true for the vast majority of people, especially in the United States. And I think that's why a lot of time I fuck with the inner city a lot more than the suburbs. And I don't want to get, or rural territories. I don't want to generalize because they're great people everywhere, but just like a little bit more visceral, intuitive of an experience in my walks of life when I was spending so much time mentoring kids in inner city Chicago, and just like, it's as real as you feel, man.
Ooh, that was a good one, man. It's as real as you feel. And my second to last question is, what would you like to ask the next guest on 34 Questions?
All right, what would I like to ask the next guest? I wish I could have some context and look at that person in the eye because I don't know that person. Let's see what I would ask. Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is also a question I like to answer at the end. So if there's a question for me that you want to ask both me and the next guest. Yeah.
All right. So the question I would ask you, Jan, is what is it going to take for you to step into that absolute inspirational zone to kind of live out your dreams? And it doesn't mean that you're not doing that in certain aspects, but what do you think is the catalyst to springboard you into, whether it's the next level, or if you want to actually be thinking the grandiose dreams like that to really, really level up? What do you think that catalyst is?
I mean, to be honest with you, I think it's finding that team. Everything I've done, I've tried to do by myself. And I always found maybe I'm able to figure it out. And there's certain steps that I feel like I could figure out, but it's more so, I can't really do everything. If you're trying to build something, you can't do it all by yourself. And that's something where I have a really hard time trying to ask for help, or really hard time selling something, selling myself, whether it's this podcast, the clothing brand, and whatever it is. It's been really hard for me to tell people oh, you should spend your time, spend your money, spend your energy on this thing that I'm trying to put out there. And it's because in my mind, it's I think everyone has that in them. They have something that they want to share or want to give to the world. So it's really hard for me to be oh no, you should put your thing on hold and come help me with my thing. And without really any compensation, without really any promise of this can be something. It's here I am trying to do what I think fulfills my life on a day-to-day basis. And how can I convince another person or other people to form a team that do the same thing? So I don't know, man. I think for me, it's really just feeling there is a team that I can push forward with, versus me trying to convince people oh no, you should support, you should stay on, you should continue with me. It's I'm looking for people that kind of see the same vision. It's okay, we can do this and get there together kind of thing. So yeah, I think for me that's what it is. And until I get to that point, maybe I do overcompensate with the weed smoking, with just chilling and trying to relax, because I feel I'm not there yet. But yeah, man, so I think that's how I would answer that question.
Appreciate that, man.
No problem. And thank you for asking, because, that's like a big reflection in my face. But now I can kind of listen back to this at some point and be like, yo, that was true. And it might remind me, kick my ass to get into shape. So thank you for that one, Chuck. And my last question for you, man, the question that ties everything together: 100, 200, 300 years from now, your descendants are watching this video. What would you like to tell them?
Shoot, man. I mean, in the last few years, I've kind of become, I don't know, in the metaphysical world is a crazy place to spend a lot of time, but reincarnation feels like a very, very real thing. So I just want to let things happen, man. Things are gonna happen. We're very, very small, but we're also very, very powerful. So I just have a lot of confidence that I'm gonna keep cleaning the karma. You know what I mean? And karma accumulates if you're not wise. So I think I'm gonna just keep on cleaning that karma, man, and things are gonna work out all right. So whatever they see, they're gonna see. Hopefully it'll be a decent movie, and the next movie, the next lifetime will continue to get better. So I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're looking for, but that's kind of what I'm seeing into the future is, it takes time to get better. It takes time to change. Like, we all change, but I think that, a lot of us do change for both the better and the worse. So to continue to change for the better is sometimes a pretty difficult, complicated chore. You need to do a lot of scrubbing. You can't live in the past, but you need to honor the past, right? So that's where my mind is at when you ask that question.
I got you, Chuck. And who knows, maybe it's going to be yourself reincarnated watching this video, and you'd be like, for some reason, I feel like I know that guy. And, everything feels like deja vu. Who knows? Sometimes I'll be thinking that's how deja vu works, is that,
yeah,
right? So we didn't even get to that point. We didn't even get to talk about deja vu. We didn't get to talk about dreams. So I hope one day, Chuck, you can come back on and we can tackle on those issues. And
no
maybe
doubt,
not
man.
even on the show. Let's just talk about it in person when I see you.
Heck yeah, man. We got to get you out. I'm pretty close. I'm living closer to the mountains now too, the big ones. So you're going to need to come east and come chill out, man. Spend a couple days out here. We'll go out.
You at the east right now? That's where you at now?
I'm in Modesto just temporarily. I'm going to probably be moving back to Chicago to help take care of my dad because he's getting sick in February. But yeah, I'm going to hit you up, man. We'll talk. And if you got a free couple of days, maybe come out and hang out. We'll chop it up.
We'll make things happen, Chuck. Yeah, and we'll continue the conversation there. Any last things you'd like to add before we head out of here?
No, I appreciate you, man. Say hi to the team at the Y, and I'll talk to you later, bro.
Will do. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna close out real quick. For the folks out there, want to appreciate your time as well, Chuck. I appreciate your time. Remember to reach out, reach forward. As always, much love, and we'll catch you guys next time on 34 Questions. Peace. All right, Chucky. Sign off, man. You good. Have a good night, man. Peace.